Stage one of a simple spring tree using a size 6 brush and a mixture of cadmium yellow or natural yellow light, .20% natural red or alizarin crimson, and 20% French ultramarine or natural blue. Load up the size 6 brush and putting the brush downwards, and gradually lift the brush up towards the top, gradually lifting the brush off the page. Make sure the bottom of this main central trunk is nice and wide. Reload the brush where necessary and continue with this same downward facing brush, working upwards, gradually tapering the branch thinner or lifting the brush off the paper. Then start to use just the tip of the brush to add some of the finer branches. It's important to paint in the direction that the tree would grow, but rotating the board or the paper around to get comfortable angles is also quite important. Add as many of these branches as is needed. Don't be afraid to overlap the branches. Use the size 6 brush as far as it'll go before you can no longer paint fine branches. That's the time to leave it to dry. Add more blue to the grey. Add more blue to the mix to make a dark brown. Using a fine brush at this point, something like a rigger brush or a detailer, start to paint in some of the fine branches. Use whatever brush you're comfortable with. Wiping off excess paint on paper towel or kitchen paper helps to create these finer branches. Tapering off towards the tip. The more fine branches you add, the more the tree has life. This same darker brown can be added to one side of the main trunk and branches to give the impression of shadow, making the main trunk and some of the larger branches have shape. Clean the brush in water, remove the excess by tapping a couple of times on kitchen paper to blend in any hard grey lines, feather them into the tree. Diluting this colour down with lots of water, removing the excess paint on kitchen paper from the brush allows you to paint in some distant branches, branches that appear to be at the back of the tree. A nice way to create depth. Using a flat brush, a 12mm or 6mm flat brush, and a clean dry piece of kitchen paper, dampen the brush, remove the excess through your fingers, and use this to wash away some highlights in the tree, making the branches, the main thick heavy branches, grow from the center of the tree rather than the edge. This has a real effective light and dark effect. Only a tiny bit of water should be needed here to get great results. It's always worth putting a base on the tree. Mix up some green from 70% cadmium yellow or natural yellow light and 30% natural blue or French ultramarine blue. You can add a simple base to the tree to help to give position and scale. And to turn this into a spring tree, that's something that we'll come to next. Using a light green mix, medium strength, made from 80% cadmium yellow or natural yellow light and 20% ultramarine blue or French ultramarine blue or natural blue. Slightly stipple the brush, breaking the bristles in the palette. This can then be used to tap individual leaf on a spring tree. The new fresh green will give an open leaf effect. Gently tap the brush, slightly rotating it to give variation in leaf. Specialist tree and texture brushes can be used here to make this process slightly quicker and less harmful to your brushes. As you can see from this example, the tree also works really well as a simple winter tree as well as a simple spring tree. Make the colour slightly darker by adding a touch more blue to the mix and continue with the stipple to add some slightly darker leaves in a few places. Keeping the tree nice and open. To allow the spring light to shine through. Holding the brush at the end of the handle and bouncing it across your finger will give a stipple effect, a splatter effect even, which is quite nice on an open tree. It is advisable to protect the surrounding area with kitchen paper, otherwise the splatters will go over areas that you don't wish them to. This is a great, quick and easy way to build up the tree, followed by a few individual taps rather than a stipple to give those last few leaves of the tree. A slightly dry brush of the green paint dragged over the foreground grassy banking will give the finishing touch to this simple spring tree.